Hello everybody, it's Kimberly Sheridan from Losing It with Kimberly. Hope you're doing well today. I am doing pretty well. I had a 7-hour chunk of sleep. Imagine. And I actually felt, when I first woke up, I was like, wow, that was 7 hours. And I actually felt better than the 6 hours plus 2. However, now that I'm up, it feels about equivalent to the 6 hours plus 2, but hey, I got a bonus hour, so yay for me. And a lot of times with the 6 hours of sleep and then 2-hour chunk after that, there's a space in between. So I'm gaining even more than an hour because I only slept 7 and I didn't waste a chunk in between. So yay. Had nothing to do with Diet Coke because I drank it up until bedtime, as I always do. So my body obviously is conditioned to the amount that I drink, and perhaps I'm not measuring how much Diet Coke I drink at this point, but as I mentioned, with crowding out, once I've added 24 ounces of water a day, I'm probably drinking less Diet Coke, just because I'm crowding it out, because I probably drink about the same number of ounces throughout the day just habitually. Yesterday, I think I actually drank more than 24 ounces of water because I'm doing the whole gulp, gulp, gulp from that giant Deer Park thing of water, and it looked like I drank more, but I liked it. It was good. You know, water tastes like nothing, but some days I only start to dislike water if I make myself drink a lot of it. Like if my goal was 64 ounces of water a day, that's when I start to become resentful against the water. So as it is, I'm still enjoying the water. So that was sleep and water. Back to Kimberly. So I wanted to mention something. You know, if you are around my age, it depends, I guess, on when you first started becoming educated about exercising. But back when I was in my 20s or upper teens and learning about exercising, they said, oh, you should stretch before you exercise. And that's actually not a good idea. You should warm up your muscles by doing something cardio, a light cardio, like walking on the treadmill, like walking, outside, like if you don't have either of those options, marching in place, anything that's just movement that's like cardio, that's more than just walking around your house, stopping to do things along the way, but actually, just stepping from side, just doing a side step, anything that's going to start warming up your muscles and get the blood flowing, you should do before you begin doing weights of any sort. So that sort of, and if you don't plan to do cardio one day, you're only doing weights, still do that 5 minutes of movement at the beginning to get your muscles warmed up and everything flowing. And what it does is it tries to prevent injury. I was going to say it prevents injury, can't say that, but the idea is that it's loosening everything up. Your ligaments, your tendons, your muscles, in order to prevent injury. So to that end, I did not do my lunges before I got on the treadmill, and I don't want to do 5 minutes of warm up on the treadmill, then step off and do my lunges and then get back on the treadmill. So I'm going to attempt to do my hour of the treadmill, and the attempt is not the ability to do lunges after, it's the ability to remember to do the lunges after. And as we've discussed, my weights, ! 3 underlined posted, it's still there on my treadmill, but as we've discussed, it hasn't worked as an effective reminder. So we'll just attempt to rely on my memory. And I did. I mentioned yesterday, semantics are funny. I've mentioned in a different audio that I do not like to make commitments to other people that I am not positive I'm going to meet. And so yesterday I was very aware that when I was talking about finally pulling together my daily 10 or daily practice or daily ritual, whatever you want to call it, checklist, I used the words like, I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was something to the effect of, I should do that. I never said I'm going to do that. Whatever I said, it was never phrased in a way that told you I was committing to doing that yesterday, because I had a lot of other things to do that felt more important. And so, this sounds so dumb, but my laptop is not, obviously it's a laptop, so I move around the house with it. So it's not connected to my computer. It's a Mac, and it has USB-C ports, which means I need an adapter in order to connect to my printer, which is the USB-A port. So I need this adapter, which is just a little thing you buy from Amazon, not a big deal, but it plugs into your computer, and then you plug the cord from the printer in the other end of it. And there's a process, right? So I take my computer to my office, pull out the adapter, plug it up to the computer, plug it up to the printer, and then print. And the printer I don't use often, so it's like got to go through its process of warming up, which is essentially the printer company's way of wasting a lot of ink so that your printer cartridges run out faster, and you have to buy another $25 printer cartridge of every color, of course, because it's programmed that you can't operate the printer even in black ink mode without all three colors plus the black. You all know this if you've used printers. It's highway robbery. It's legal robbery. What would legal robbery be? There's got to be some word for that. It's not nice, but in any case, so it's not a big deal really at all. But it's just a process that takes longer than pushing a button and waiting for something to pop out in 30 seconds. So I wasn't ready to commit to you yesterday, and I used very specific words that didn't say I'm going to do this. I said I'm going to try. I said I should. Anyway, I did. I did do it. I went back, and this is the first time. Let me finish a sentence. I went back and I created my current daily, what used to be called Daily 10 checklist, with the current things that I'm committed to. And this is the first time I haven't had 10 on there. Typically, there are 10 items on there, and that's why it's called the Daily 10. And if I have more things than 10 that I want to commit to at one point in my life, I'll really look at what these things are, and maybe I'll combine some of them because they make sense to combine, and I'll end up narrowing it down to 10. This is the first time that it's like a half page, There's only 5 things on it. Let's see if I can remember them while I'm walking. The first thing that I've never mentioned that's on it is vitamins and supplements. And that's, for me, calcium, fish oil, biotin for hair loss that I've been taking since I had babies, and works for certain types of hair loss. Not all, as I've also experienced, but it definitely has worked for certain types. And vitamin D3. Is that it? Yep, that's it. So that's the first thing on my list, which I do consistently. Never mention it because I had been doing that for a very long time and didn't really think about mentioning it to you, but that's the first thing I do consistently. Then I have on there the next change I implemented, which was the standing for 8 hours a day. Then I have, I'm trying to do them in order, but I'm probably going to fail at that. Then I have the walking for an hour at the treadmill desk. And then I have the 24 ounces of water. And then I have the weights, doing the one set of 12 reps of weights. And I can't remember, I think I phrased the weights part in a way that leaves it open for me to morph it over the month, because this sheet is just a one-pager, one side of the page that has a month represented. As I mentioned, down the left, it has a column for each of the changes you're committing to, and across the top, there's a small column for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 31. So that for each of the changes, there's a box that represents every day of the month. So on a one-pager, just one side printed, you can make check marks or smiley faces, as I do, in colored ink, because that motivates me more, because the page is printed in black and white. So you can make a mark for each day that you did the thing. And there's also a mark you can make if you never plan to do the thing. You don't, on these things, you don't need to make everything a daily. You know, if you have a change that you want to make, you can make a change in your life that doesn't happen every single day. The idea is that it doesn't have to be daily. It needs to be consistent. And it needs consistent, two things. It needs to be consistent enough to produce the desired result. That's true of anything in our lives. You need to do something consistently enough to get the desired result. And depending on what you're trying to accomplish, you know, that consistency might be 2 times a week, might be 5 times a week, might be every day. But the other piece is it needs to be what you're willing to commit to. Let's say that to get a desired result, well, let's look at my arm weights. I'm doing one set of 12. I can tell you, and I'm doing it at a weight, the 15-pound dumbbells, that are challenging enough for me to get to the 8th rep and go, wow, this is getting hard. How many more are there, right, in order to get to up to 12? So I'm doing the correct weight for myself. However, I've not felt sore at all. So it's hard, but only doing one set of 12 isn't making me sore, right? And I'm not saying soreness is what you should aspire to. When I was in really great shape, I was rarely sore, you know. I mean, that some people might say, and somewhat rightfully so, that, hey, if you're not sore at all, you're not progressing. And that could be true, but hey, I was really strong and I was looking pretty good, so I was happy with the result. And, you know, I was dealing with a lot of other things like divorce and the recession decimating my income and savings. And so I wasn't aggressively focused on getting in shape, really. As I mentioned in another recording, it was just an outlet for me to release my anger and fear and pent-up anxiety and, you know, whatever else. Getting in really good shape wasn't the goal. It was actually an outcome of a very stressful period of my life, of grasping, right, for control of something that I could make a positive change in. And it was the only positive change I was able to make at the time, you know, because life's hard. Sometimes that happens. So let's see if I can get back to the point. You know, it shouldn't be hard to think while you're walking, but sometimes it is. I hope it is for others. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But let's see. Oh, the point was the arms. So I don't get sore from doing this one set of arm exercises that is hard for me. And I'll add on another point in a minute about making a compound move. But as you may recall, I changed it from simple bicep curls to a compound move of a bicep curl that morphs into a shoulder press and then comes back down and repeats bicep curl, shoulder press. So I did 12 reps of that. So that one change is not going to be enough to give me the result of having ripped arms, or even having strong arms, really. It's going to strengthen my biceps, and in this case, my shoulders now, but it's still not working all the muscles in my arms. And it's only one rep, and it's not challenging me beyond challenge because it's not making me sore at all, right? So that is not going to give me the end result. I'm committed to do it every day, consistently, but it's not the amount of what I'm doing is not enough to give me the end result that I ultimately want for strength in my arms. However, that's all I'm willing to commit to doing right now. And that's fine, because that's a step forward, right? If I put together an entire arm routine right now, I'm not going to do it, because I'm going to be the whole time thinking, I need to be doing something else. There's something else that's more important than this right now, I'm not going to be, I'll get the arms, but then my stress levels are going to go back up and my hair will start falling out more. There's right now just too many other things that are critically important. Which I'll mention another one that my son created for me. I'll mention that in a little bit. So the point is, in using the daily 10, the daily rituals, the daily habits, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't have to be daily. It's quite fine to, ahead of time, go through and mark the days that you're not going to do it. Just put little X marks in those blanks. Put a certain color in those blanks. No problem with figuring out what you're committed to do. And if you're only committed to do something twice a week, mark all the other days out, or don't do it ahead of time. But just as your goal in the left-hand column, mark 2 days /week, that you're willing to do it. And then you can, if you're the kind of person that just wants to pick whatever 2 days those are as you go along, that's fine. If you're a person that wants to say, no, I'm going to do it Monday and Wednesday, you can go ahead and put a little X mark in all the boxes that aren't Mondays and Wednesdays. The whole thing is 99.999% of the time, you want to hit what you're committed to. And what you're committed to doesn't have to be every day. And right now, step one doesn't have to be the thing that's going to deliver the ultimate end result. We're just taking a step down the path. So hopefully that makes sense to you. I did want to mention the shoulder press. Or compound moves specifically. So yesterday I mentioned or described what a compound move is, which if you didn't hear that part or want to hear it again, a compound move, there's 2 different ways people describe it. Some people describe it as it's a single exercise that works multiple muscle groups, like a lunge is going to work both the muscles in your legs and the muscles in your butt. Other people use it, and I really use it more to describe when you take 2 individual exercises and you combine them together into a single exercise. And my example, which is the exercise that I'm doing right now, is using dumbbells, combining a bicep curl with a shoulder press. As I described in more detail yesterday, you do a bicep curl, and when you're at the top of the movement of the bicep curl, you rotate your palms out, and then you press up from there. You press up from where the weights are, you press them up into the sky at the same time, so they're above your head and pushed up from your shoulders. And then you bring the weights back down to your shoulders. You rotate your palms back towards your body, and then you lower it back down into the ending part of the bicep curl. So that's a compound move. However, when putting together 2 moves to make it to a compound move, you need to be able to do the same weight for each move. So if I was not able to do 15 pounds in a shoulder press, just singularly, if I'm doing shoulder presses and 15 pounds is not the correct weight for me to be lifting, and again, correctness is determined by it. The correct weight is the weight that when you get to the 8th rep, you're starting to say, this is getting a little bit hard now. How many more of these do I have to do? If you are not thinking it's getting hard by the 8th rep, you're lifting something that's too light for you. If you think it's getting hard, how many more do I have to do before you get to the 8th rep? You're lifting something that's too heavy for you. The goal is to do 12 reps. And so what we want it to be getting hard by the 8th rep, hard enough for you to start thinking, man, that's getting hard. How many more do I have to do? So for me, I knew and had discovered that at my strength level right now, 15-pound dumbbells are the correct weight for bicep curls. But I hadn't really independently done shoulder presses in a long time, so I really didn't know what the correct weight was for those. I believe that I had been doing, in recent times when I've gone back to the gym in little chunks of time, I think I had been doing 20s, maybe 22.5, which, you might not be able to find in the store, but you can find at the gym a lot of times, the 0.5s. So I didn't remember what I had been doing. I didn't know what my strength level is now because it's been months and months and months since I've been to the gym. And that was only, for a short period of time. So the question was, can I lift 15 pounds for the shoulder press? Can I go from the 15-pound dumbbell, lift it, move right into the shoulder press with that same weight? And is it the correct weight for me to do such that I can do ultimately 12 reps? And if you can't do the same weight for both parts of the exercise that you've combined into one, then those aren't good matches for you right now. That's, you need to find a different match for your compound exercise. Because what you wouldn't want to do, if my biceps are capable of doing 15s, but my shoulder press is only capable of doing 12s, I don't want to lower the entire compound move down to 12-pound dumbbells, because then I'm doing a disservice to my biceps. Then the compound move is not benefiting my biceps at all. I'm sort of dumbing it down for my biceps, and they're not being challenged in the level they need to be challenged because it's all in service of my shoulder press. So that's not a compound move you'd want to do. And you don't need to do compound moves at all, right? You could independently do these separately. The benefit of the compound move is time, right? You're lessening the amount of time it's going to take and to do these two exercises. If you did them, bicep curls, and you did the shoulder press back to back, it takes more time than it does if you're doing it as a compound move, right? I've never timed it. I'm sure it's not cut in half time, right? But it's some time in between there. So anyway, it ended up working out for me. I ended up being able to do the 15s, but it was challenging. But it worked. So where we're at with that now is that on arm days, I'm going to do the one set of bicep curls to shoulder press, compound move, one set of 12. That's it. Still not adding any more onto that. On leg days, I'm going to have to use my memory, like today, to do a set of lunges after the treadmill, because I don't want to do them before I've warmed up my muscles and tendons and ligaments, and I don't want to be on the treadmill doing a 5-minute warm-up, then have to step off and do lunges, then get back on the treadmill. It's one of those things that once you stop, it's hard to get back on, even with walking, it's a mental thing. If you're like, oh, I'm off now, I don't want to get back on there. It's truly a mental thing. It has nothing to do with, it's clear to me because it has nothing to do with the harditude of what I'm doing on the treadmill, because I'm just walking. I'm sure it sounds hard because I huff and puff while I talk to you this whole time, but it's not actually that hard. So anyway, I hope that was clear on compound moves and you got a little bit of something out of that. I was thinking yesterday about the speed I was walking on the treadmill and why I had picked 2.5 miles per hour ultimately. And I know I had mentioned it was about typing, blah, blah, blah. But I also realized I've changed what I'm doing. Like when I first started, I was listening back to some old audios. And when I first started, I was watching some technical trainings. And so I needed to type a lot because I was taking detailed notes. I was making screenshots. I was learning something that I wanted to be able to refer back to in a document that I made, like a cheat sheet. Like that's the way I studied in school, is to learn things and take notes along the way and highlight. And, in the notes, it's only stuff that I need. It makes sense to me. I'm not transcribing what they're teaching, right? But I'm writing down everything I need to create a reference document, basically. And this is something that I was going to use over and over and over, to create a lot of things in my business. And so it was important. And I realized, I finished with that. So that's one reason I probably wouldn't have been going at 3.0 then, because as I mentioned, typing, is impacted the faster you go. And I was having to do a lot of typing then and having to do a lot of screenshots. And so it was happenstance that I increased to 3.0 the other day. But I think also it probably didn't come to mind at that point either when I was still doing the technical training, because, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So anyway, I think that's a key to have here, is to be able to, evolve as you go along. And I know I've mentioned it before, but I just want to reiterate that it's not about, it's not about adding on changes on a schedule. Okay, every Monday I'm going to make this change. By this date, I want to be to this level. It's very much how I used to look at all this stuff, but that's when I had much more control of the resources in my life, the time, the energy, the money. That was when my body had it turned on me, and I didn't have the 16 different directions I was supposed to be going in my life, with everything being equally important, but impossible to accomplish all, and so now I'm dealing with the reality, which, a lot of people at this age have a lot more responsibility than they used to, right? And or things happening with their body. So, it's sort of a cross-section. If your responsibility has gone up, and cross-section might be wrong, because that sort of sounds like one thing's going up, one's down. In my case, and probably in many of your cases, responsibility is up and capability is down. Maybe I don't personally feel as mentally sharp as I used to be. I don't know if that's age or if it's just distraction, like too many things that my brain is supposed to be thinking about, and it's just constantly jumping all over the place to address whatever needs to happen next. And I don't know if I'll have an opportunity to find out which of those things it is, if my responsibilities ease up as the next couple of years go by, and and I'm only a couple of years older. Maybe I'll have this chance to see if it was an age thing or a too many responsibilities thing. But in any case, somewhere along the way, we're having more responsibilities, and we might have less time. We might have, our mental capabilities might be lessening. We might have physical things that are draining more of our time and taking more of our attention. I mentioned the other day, sleep. If you have to lay in the bed for 10 hours to get 8 hours of sleep, and you need 8 hours of sleep to work and live productively, then you've just lost 2 hours of the day, and that's pretty significant. 2 out of every day for a whole week is 14 hours. So that's pretty significant, or maybe you have a health condition that's requiring treatment or research. My mom, before she got Alzheimer's, had has this chronic lung bacteria that you contract. It's bacteria that's in the soil, the air, the water. So some people are just predisposed to get a lung bacteria from this. And once it's there, it's sort of like a sourdough starter. It's there forever. I think for a sourdough starter, you actually have to do something to keep it alive. I don't know. I've never done that. But, in this case, the bacteria is in your lungs forever. And it's sort of like cystic fibrosis or tuberculosis, and that it creates phlegm and mucus and fluid in your lungs. And so it's a treatment. The treatment for it sort of tells you how harsh it is. because the treatment is a triple antibiotic for 18 months. So you're on an antibiotic, usually when we have an infection, they're putting us on a single antibiotic for, like I mentioned, I'm not even sure I've ever been on one. I feel like I must have been on one at some point for a UTI, at least. But I don't remember ever being on one. But I believe that they're, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, something like that, depending on what they put you on and what condition you have, or the severity of it, perhaps. But in her case, we're taking a single one for 5, 7, 10 days. She was taking 3 antibiotics at the same time because they don't want the body to become resistant to any one of them. So she was taking 3 of them at the same time every day for 18 months. That's the treatment for this thing. So basically, it's like for 18 months, the antibiotics are supposed to go into your system and beat up this bacteria until the bacteria backs off for a while. And then they do a test at the end of 18 months. And if the bacteria is backed off to a great extent, they'll take you off the antibiotics because they don't want to leave you on them forever, because then you will become resistant, or the thought is that you would become resistant. So they take you off of it, and then the bacteria slowly, and it's a slow growing one, but it slowly grows back in your lungs, so it's not gone ever. It just slowly grows back, and once enough of it, is in your lungs, you can't breathe. And so then you got to go back on the antibiotics for 18 months, and it's sort of a cycle like that. And so that happened in 2008, which was another one of the triggering events for me as well, because at that point, only 18,000 people a year were diagnosed with this thing. So it took a lot of research to figure out, what is this? Who knows how to treat it? I mean, there were even pulmonologists who had never heard of this. We were lucky enough that her pulmonologist, well, she didn't have a pulmonologist because she'd never had lung problems, but her pulmonologist that we took her to, he didn't even know what he was looking at on the I can't remember if that was an x-ray or a CT scan at that point, probably a CT scan. He didn't even know what he was looking at. We were lucky that he happened to go to a conference and he took it with him and showed other people, other doctors. And they were like, this could be what's called NTM, non-tubercular mycobacterial infection. And it turned out that that was it. And so we were actually, quote unquote, lucky in the sense that we diagnosed it early, or he diagnosed it early, but then we switched from him because he didn't know what the heck it was in the first place, and we needed somebody who was a specialist. And so we ended up going to an infectious disease doctor, and it's a whole trip. The whole point is that if you or somebody in your family has a condition, it's more than just, oh, you have that, get it treated. It's a journey, it's a trip. It takes lots of time. It might take lots of money, which causes stresses. It might take lots of energy because of how the condition makes you feel or how the treatment makes you feel. So with everything in our lives that we do, there are different levels of responsibilities and constraints and different amounts of resources, if we have a partner or if we don't, if we have family around locally or if we don't, etc. If we have children that are still, needing things from us or we don't. And so, you have to be realistic with what you can do in your current life circumstances, when you're trying to make lifestyle changes. So any of us can make some change. It's just a matter of, what's realistic for you now that you can commit to, and then you can at least have a win in that column, right? And you can feel good about that. So I think that's it for today. I'm going to talk to you tomorrow briefly about what my son did that has now changed my resources. Not to the extent I can't make it through, but to the extent that I wanted to burst into tears yesterday when I got his message because he's at his dad's house. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. For today, I hope that you have a good day. or if you're at the end of your day, I hope you had a good day. And, just congratulate yourself for what you're doing so far. If you want to add on something new today for, starting tomorrow, do that. If you don't and you're happy with what you're doing so far, pat yourself on the back. I mean, really, everybody pat yourself on the back for what you've done. Because if you're doing anything, it's better than what you had been doing before. It's more than what you had been doing before. And that's progress. And that's really all we're looking for here, right? We're just looking for a step forward. That's it, right? So I hope you have a good day, and I'm going to talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.